Sasori is my personal favorite agent, and as such, this guy is going to be heavily biased. In this video, we are going to be looking at Sasori's strengths and weaknesses, go over his kit, and showcase two different Sasori builds. His initial build that everyone must use, and my personal preferred build. While I may not be the world's #1 Sasori, this guide should be more than enough for you to hit the ground running. Alright, let's start it up. While classes aren't really a thing in Deceive, Sasori is identified as a tracker, and I'm going to be honest, it doesn't really fit him. Trackers are supposed to be good at finding, signaling, and hunting down targets, and sure, he can hunt down targets just as good as any other agents, but the other trackers like Ace and Cav have really good tracking people while they're in cover, and Sasori really doesn't. He has one passive and like one-ish expertise that allows for that, but mostly just kind of plays like everyone else. Unlocks in Deceive are locked with the character mastery system. As you play more with Sasori, you'll gain mastery points and mastery levels. At levels 2, 6, and 10, you'll gain cosmetics. Level 3, the second passive. Level 4, the second expertise. Level 5, the second weapon. Level 7, the final passive. Level 8, the final expertise. And level 9, Sasori's final weapon. Once you've completed the 10 mastery levels, you move into the long-term progression system known as Echelons. There's 100 echelon levels, and as a long-term progression system, it's estimated to take between 400 and 600 gameplay hours to complete. There's a lot of rewards along the way, most notably at levels 10, 50, and 100, there's a unique costume, and at level 30, there's a unique ink. Along the way, there's also the premium currency bonds. Before we get into the kit, I do want to shout out one special ability Sasori has that isn't really listed in game anywhere, but it's pretty important to know. Sasori is the only agent in the game who is capable of sprinting and shooting at the same time. All other agents must stop sprinting and even slow down a little from their base walk speed to actually fire their weapon, but Sasori uniquely can sprint at full sprint speed and fire at the same time. Now let's get into his weapons. These weapons are not English, so I'm going to try my best, but we're going to screw up a lot, and I apologize in advance. So weapon 1 is the Ame and Kage. So all of Sasori weapons are kind of two. He has a throwable, in this case darts, and some sort of melee, in this case a short sword. So that's important to know. You can't aim down sights with Sasori. When you do, you ready your sword, and clicking the fire button while you're aiming down the sights, aka your sword ready, will just swing the sword out in front of you, and your regular hip fire will throw your throwable, in this case darts. With that in mind, let's go over the stats. So the damage on the darts is 13, which isn't a lot, but the headshot damage is like almost triple at like 32. So if you land a headshot, you're doing really good damage, and the fire rate's pretty quick at 2.35. So even at only 13, you're doing pretty okay damage. Obviously not anything like a full auto weapon, but you're doing decent. The mag size here is only 1, which is a bit of a misleading number, along with the reload speed. Functionally, you only have one dart at a time, and your fire rate's 2.53. So it's sort of the same as having a full, a mag of 20, I believe, is the maximum ammo you can hold. Since you don't really reload, the sword does 40 damage, which is a lot. And combined with the unique ability of sprinting and shooting that we said, I think the best way to use this weapon is to kind of throw darts while you're sprinting at the target and kind of finish with the sword for that big hit of 40. Obviously, if you're landing some good headshots or just enough darts, you're going to get a kill anyway, but that's how I like to play it. This, I think, is Sasori's best weapon right now, and it just feels really good to use, I'm not going to lie. So this would show up in our preferred build, but I don't want to show the same weapon twice. Honestly, for the preferred build, I could use like any of Sasori weapons, but I think we'll use the weapon 3, so we'll get there in a minute. Okay, here's one I definitely can't pronounce. I believe it's the Hoyo and the Hane. This one replaces your darts with kunai and your short sword with a full-on katana. This is kind of the charged version of Sasori's weapons. As you hold down mouse 1, you'll charge up to 5 kunai in your hand and throw them all at once, kind of like a shotgun. You can kind of miss them, so if they throw into like a plus pattern once you charge up all 5. So if you only hit 4 of those 5 kunai, you only do the damage of 4. So each individual kunai does 7 damage and 12 to the head. The damage is pretty good here. So if you hit all 5, that's like 35 damage to the body. It doesn't take that long to charge it up. It's, I believe, a little faster than we're actually seeing in this video. I think this video is just a little bit older. Again, same mag reload speed thing that Sasori has, with only 1 and no reload speed in this case. But one kunai per second isn't a lot, but most of the time you just want to charge them up to 5 and throw them once you get 5. I don't think the rate of fire here affects too much. And one of the interesting things about this is the sword itself. You can do what they call a fast sword, or just a quick sword with this for only 30 damage, which is less than what we saw before, but the sword itself also charges. So a charged sword will do 60 damage, which is a lot of damage. That's over half of someone's HP in a single swing. The downside is the faster sword, the 30 damage one, has a bit of a longer cooldown, and the charged sword has a really long cooldown. So if you miss or they don't die on that sword, you're kind of stuck there having a sword put away animation for a while, and there's no real nice way to cancel it. So this one I think is kind of not in a great spot right now. I think it's really fun. Like, honestly, it's one of the most fun weapons in the game right now. But if I just wanted to win games, I don't really think I would take it. It's not working together so well right now. Finally, we have the Yuki and the Hikari, which replaces our original darts with tiny needles, and it replaces our short sword or katana with a chef's knife, which I think is really cool. So the damage here is really low. 6 and 8, I think, is some of the lowest damage numbers in the game, but the rate of fire is 3 per second. So compared to Sasori's other 2 rates of fire, this is pretty high. Again, mag size, reload speed don't really matter for this. The sword is only 15, which is really bad, I'm not gonna lie, and it's even worse than it seems, but we'll talk about it a little more. So the special ability of this weapon, as it says on the tooltip there, is that the needles, and only the needles, the throwables, get bonus damage for each debuff on a victim, negative status effect. So this is really powerful, and you gain 4 bonus damage for each debuff, up to a maximum of 3. So you can actually be doing 18 damage to the body if the target has 3 debuffs on them. And it's actually only 20 damage to the head in that case. The additional 2 headshot damage doesn't quite act quite proper, but that is interesting because there's not a ton of reason you need to aim for the head with this weapon. So 18 damage to the body at a rate of 3 per second is a lot, but it does require a bit of setup to get 3 debuffs. So this weapon itself can provide 1 debuff. We talked about the knife being kind of bad at only 15 damage. It also applies a slowing effect, which is 1 of your 3 debuffs. The problem is, by the time you have its relatively short knife put away animation, there's not a ton of time left on that slow, and you're realistically only getting 2 or maybe 3 darts out with that slow debuff on them. As we'll see in Sasori's expertise, his main mechanic is actually poison, which is another debuff, and we'll get into that more in the expertise. But applying poison can be the second or first debuff that is applied along with this slow. And then one of his passives applies the trace debuff. So that can be the 3rd debuff from a passive as well, as long as you're running a very specific weapon, any of his expertise, and a very specific passive. You can get 3 debuffs just with Sasori's kit alone, and that doesn't even include gadgets, which we'll go over in the gadget section, which ones actually include some debuffs. So this one is pretty good. It did recently get nerfs, so it's fallen a little down from its previous, but if you saw it previously, it was really strong, so it kind of needed it. I think this one is still usable and definitely fun to just try to, it's almost like a mini game of apply a lot of debuffs and then just go ham with your needles. When I play it, I don't really use the sword at all and rely on either just having 2 debuffs or a gadget for that 3rd one. And it's also kind of strong in teams where you can get, like, Octo applies neutralized and exposed, which is 2 debuffs, or you can get another teammate to add some debuffs. It still caps out at 3 maximum debuffs, but you don't have to do as much work yourself, which is nice. So this will show up in our preferred weapon build, and we'll try to show off how it works in solos. And well, that's really it for the weapons. Let's talk about the expertises. Before we talk about Sasori's expertise, I think it's important to go over the poison debuff, since Sasori and all of his expertise kind of revolve around it. So I do want to start off by saying that poison doesn't do damage. I think when I hear poison, and I think from coming from a lot of different games, usually if you poison a target, you expect some sort of damage over time or dot effect to happen. And that's just not the case with this poison in this game. So what poison does do is it prevents all healing. So if a character has a healing ability, such as like Red or Yumi or Chavez, they can still use that ability, but it no longer will heal them. It will also prevent them from picking up healing items like health vials and food, and it will prevent them using those health vials if they already have them. It also prevents spending and hacking electronics to gain intel. So you'll notice I didn't mention the health terminals in the bathrooms, which kind of fall under the can't hack category more than the can't heal category. It's a little bit of a gray area, but poison covers both. They can't heal through food and vial sources, and they also can't heal or hack from the health terminals in the bathroom. They also can't hack any doors or hack anything to gain intel, can't hack any safes. Just if it involves touching your watch, you can't do it while you're poisoned. So that's what poisoned does on its own, and it's on all of its expertise, so let's talk about them. First up, we have coated weaponry, which is kind of exactly what it says. You hit the button and you coat your weapon in poison. So when you hit someone with it, either your throwable or your sword, then you will poison your target on your next hit. I do find the next hit part is important to say, because some of the passives and even the weapon 3 does depend on a debuff or a poison effect. So for the weapon 3, which gains damage on debuffs, that first hit, if you're using this, won't actually have the bonus damage from the poison debuff, as the first hit is what applies that poison debuff. So it'll be every hit after the first one will reapply the poison and also get bonus damage from the target being poisoned. That's really it. This one's pretty simple, but what's really nice about this is its animation is very cancelable. I think it's really short, so you can see him do a whole dump poison on dart animation here in our video, but you can cancel it. You can hit for me it's F, so I hit like F and click, and it's ready to go. I don't think that there's been a time anymore where I've tried to throw a dart after applying poison and it's canceled, or it's prevented me from doing that because it's animation locked. So this one's pretty strong, and kind of like the bread and butter, take this if you don't have a good reason to take the other ones, and I think it fits the role very well. Next up, we have poison vials. It's called poison vials plural, but it's actually poison vial singular. You only get one, and then it has to recharge. So you get this little vial, and you can throw it out, and it makes this little like sphere of poison, and anyone who's in it or walks through it becomes poisoned. Anyone except for yourself, which can actually matter and is important to know. So Sasori can't poison himself with this. Beyond just the effects of poisoned, NPCs and other rivals do have these little like poison bubbles come off them when they are actually under the effects of poison. That's how you know. So if Sasori walks through his own bubble, he doesn't get these little poisoning effects, and you can accidentally give yourself away. But it doesn't really happen too much, but it is something important to call out. If you walk through your own bubble, you're going to look like an NPC that didn't just get poisoned, and that basically guarantees that you were the Sasori who placed the bubble. But the bubble's pretty big. You can throw it kind of far. One thing to know about this is, even though the animation, he kind of throws it, for whatever reason, the poison vial seems to come out from Sasori's knees. So if you're standing on like a balcony and there's a little fence in front of you, you're probably going to hit the little fence in front of you. It's really hard to aim this because of that, and you kind of got to be aware that it starts lower than you expect and may break a little earlier than you expect too. So I always try to aim a little higher and make sure I'm not immediately blocked by anything from this. This one's also a little interesting because the cooldown on it doesn't start until the bubble's gone. So the bubble lasts a really long time, something like 20 seconds. At least last I checked. So it's there for like 20 seconds and you don't get another one, and the cooldown doesn't even start until this one disappears. So having like high field upgrade expertise cooldown for this doesn't matter too much because the cooldown doesn't start until it's gone. So you're just speeding up the time you get it back after it's gone, and you've already waited so long, or it's been so long, that waiting, you know, even long, like shortening that time doesn't matter too much. So that's my thoughts on this one. I don't think it's in an amazing spot right now, but one cool thing about this is it doesn't break your cover when you throw it. Obviously, if someone's really astute, they can see where the vial came from or what NPC it came from, but you can just throw it, and potentially comboing it with another passive that we'll see in a minute, it does work as a decent spy check or just some area denial. But I don't really take this one anymore, just due to the long cooldown and it not doing too much more than the coated weaponry can do. Again, I just don't think the area denial or the potential spy check is all that valuable to me, but I think it's an okay one to take. Finally, we have the noxious gas. So this is the only expertise he has that actually does damage. It only does 5, but it is a noteworthy amount of damage to shout out. So with this one, you drop a bomb of poison and it explodes in an AoE around you. It's not that big. Apologies, I had to change where I was looking. Yeah, so it's within 8.5 meters, so less than 10 meters, so usually less than a shotgun range, and it does 5 damage and poisons. So it does break enemies' covers. It also breaks your cover, and this one's pretty good if you can get in range. Sometimes the 5 damage makes a difference. The AoE is pretty good if you're in like a team and need to poison multiple people. It can be good for that as well. Again, I find myself not taking this one unless I'm trying to do some cool stuff with like the weapon 2, since this one can sort of animation cancel that long sword animation we talked about. So I think it's okay. I think I would take this one second, coated weaponry first, noxious gas second, and poison vials not too often anymore. So that's the expertises on their own. Let's move on to the passives here, because a lot of Sasori is comboing his expertise with a passive and like complementing that with a weapon. So these you'll find, I think, are sort of the expertise become a lot more interesting as you pair them with a passive, because all the passives are poison modifiers basically. So this one's poison sense, which adds trace to anyone you have poisoned. So we talked about how one of the passives adds another debuff. That's this one. That's the trace effect. So with your weapon 3, if you're running weapon 3 that gives you a slow, any of the expertises will give you poison, and this passive will give you trace for 3 debuffs, which is the max. This one's really strong because tracing targets can be quite valuable. This is why I think Sasori is known to be a tracker. This is really strong against like Madam, because poison does last a little while. If Madam snaps away, she's still traced. If a Larson poofs away from you, you can't trace them while Larson's invisible, but as soon as he becomes visible again, that trace is probably still on him, since the poison does last a little while. So this one is just good to take. Having trace on someone just makes it really hard for them to get away from you. In a teams, it could help your team in focus fire one person, which can add value there. I think this one's pretty good, and if I don't have a good reason to take the other ones, this one is what I always grab. So this one's give and take, which increases your sword damage to people who are poisoned. So it's only on the sword part, not the throwables of all of his weapons. You increase that damage by 30%, which is of course different for each weapon. So we're gonna throw back to the weapons. 40 damage plus 30% is gonna be 46. 30 damage plus 30%, I believe, is 35. Quick math. might be 34, 35. The 60 damage charged sword is going to be 69 damage, and the 30 damage increase on the 15 damage of this is like +2 or something really small, and you shouldn't combo these. It just doesn't work out. You're doing like 17 or 18 damage instead of 50. So that's kind of the increases in damage we see. I sometimes like to take this one with weapon 2 or weapon 1. I think the +6 damage on the sword there can come in valuable, but it's kind of a personal preference between this one and the previous one. With your weapon 2, even though you're doing a big 69 damage charged sword with this, almost 70 damage, which is about 70% of someone's HP without a chip, that long cooldown still causes an issue, but I kind of think this is still the best one to grab though. So there's that. I think that's really all there is about this one. It's fairly simple. Also to shout out, if you are using that coded weaponry, this means you can't lead with the sword. Since the first sword swipe is going to apply that poison, you're not going to get the benefit of them being poisoned on that first swipe. So that's an important call out here as well if you're comboing this with expertise 1. And finally, we have the Down with the Sickness passive, which probably has the best name for the worst ability. This makes your poison last longer, which doesn't matter too much. Poison lasts a decent amount of time already, and especially if you're using coded weaponry, you're each dart you're throwing, or each throwable, each sword swipe is reapplying that poison. Even if you're using expertise 2 here, which is what they're showing in the video, they can walk back through it again for it to apply again, or they're likely dead or almost dead by the time that the poison's off, the base poison's off, let alone the lasting longer. And for expertise 3, very similar. You're up close, you're personal, you're probably landing some sword swipes. I don't think a lot of people are surviving your initial poison burst, so I really don't like this one. The other part of it is Sasori recovers some active cooldown, which is just he gets his expertise back faster every time you damage a poisoned rival. His expertises don't last too long. In the video here, they show them throwing 2 poison vials, but that's actually not possible anymore. This video is out of date, since now the poison vial cooldown doesn't start until the first bubble is popped. It's actually impossible to do what they're showing in this video now. You can't have 2 poison bubbles out at once. So yeah, I don't think this one gets taken ever by anyone. I'm not gonna lie. Even in teams, it's just not as good as either just slightly more damage or just tracing. So I think that's the full kit. There's a lot of combos between a lot of things, and a lot of things that don't combo as well. So while you kind of can't go wrong, while there's a lot of things that go right, there's also ways you can kind of go wrong. So pretty interesting character, but I do like all the builds we have. While gadgets aren't really specific to agents, we'll try to call out a couple combos with Sasori here. Mostly we're going to be calling out things that apply debuffs, since his weapon 3 could use another debuff. I think that's a popular way to take it. So we'll start there. Anything that applies a debuff, goo pods of course apply a slow, which is the same as the weapon 3 sword, but the goo pod just kind of does it better. Even though it doesn't do damage, you don't have a sword cooldown on it at all, and a slowed target's easier to shoot anyway, so it's just better than using the sword, I think. Hack Trap technically has a debuff in the form of Snapshot, but this doesn't actually combo with the weapon 3, because Snapshot lasts for about 1 frame, and it's just not gonna happen. Snapshot lasts for basically no time, and you just can't hit them, meaning the chance of you actually hitting a dart in the 1 frame with their Snapshot is just 0. This applies Trace, which is the same as the passive 1, so you can't trace someone twice, but that's also a trace. The Drone Dart also applies Trace, so there's another way you can get Trace. I believe that is it. None of these apply a debuff, and none of these apply a debuff, and neither do these 2. So it's really just these 3 technically. The Goo Pod, the Tripwire, and the Recon Drone could get you more damage on that weapon 3. And realistically, I think that's kind of it for Sasori specific gadget combos. The shield, maybe if you're using weapon 2 with its charged sword, you need some time to charge the sword. This could buy you that time. Other than that, I don't see any real combos. So let's move on to field upgrades. We're going to be using the base as always. But I did talk about expertise a bit. His expertise 1 and expertise 3 would feel fine with more cooldown. I think you could forego it as well. His expertise 2, there's really no point in taking any expertise cooldown in my opinion. So yeah, I would just take this right out in that case. We're playing in solos, and I don't like extended ammo pouch in solos. In teams, where you in solos, when you win a fight, you pick up the spy pack and get ammo back from that. In teams, you have to pick who's getting the spy pack, and it's not always you, so you could run out of ammo more. But Sasori does have a slightly lower ammo maximum. We talked about the weapon 1 having a max of 20 shots. Of course, you can always fall back on your sword, which functionally has infinite ammo, but that is, you have to be in sword range. So if I was going to take extended ammo pouch on anyone in solos, it would probably be Sasori, and even then only on Gray, just in case you miss all 20 of your shots, or you don't have a full 20 yet. I always call it cover accelerator as pretty good, and Sasori is no exception. I don't really think any of these specifically combo with Sasori or Poison or any of his passives particularly better than any other agent, so I could just call it some general stuff, but this isn't a field upgrades guide. But we always call out exfiltration scanner as being just bad, so don't take this one. Now we're going to go over the builds before we get into the showcases. So obviously the initial build is going to be 1, 1, and 1. So weapon 1 there, expertise 1, and passive 1. This is actually one of my preferred Sasori builds, so obviously it's not going to show up again in our preferred build. I like to run this, or either with the give and take for just slightly more damage on that sword finisher can come invaluable. But obviously we'll stick with the 1, 1, and 1, but I did want to call out an alternate. For our preferred build, I'm gonna use weapon 2 here. I was thinking of using weapon 3, so I'm gonna briefly mention this. The best build for weapon 3 is to continue to take the coated weaponry, since then all of your darts poison. So you don't have to worry about them stepping out of your poison or your poison running out, and you get a little more range than both of these. So that's really good. And then this is the only passive that applies a trace effect for that other debuff. And it's also really good if you combo it with a gadget such as goo pods, but in these showcases we're not using other gadgets, we're just using the starter ones. So even though I would really like to show this one off, I don't think I want to re-show the same expertise, same passive again, and without using another gadget, I don't feel like we're doing it really at its full strength. So we're actually going to use the weapon 2 here, which is just as fun, but just a little different. So we'll use the weapon 2, the expertise 3, so we'll have to get up close and personal. And just for those huge damage sword swipes, we'll pull out the give and take, the passive 2. And that will be our preferred, or in this case, alternate build showcase. Alright, Operation Hard Sell for our initial build showcase here. Let's hope this one goes okay, because I just finished. This is basically how I like to play the agent, so should go well, hopefully. I'm good at this. Let's get right to it here. Nothing too special going on yet, just grabbing our intel. We spawned right here by B, so
gotcha.
Couple ways we could go, but let's be honest, probably gonna head towards B. Could do, you know what, let's change it up a little bit. Got 5 ammo here, actually kind of important.
Very useful.
One of Sasori's little downsides is he doesn't start with much. Before we got that 5 ammo, we only had a total of, 8 shots? Which seems like a lot, but if you're in a fight that you miss a couple times, those 8 shots can disappear really quick on you. Let's grab this outfit, there we go, and into this green room. Kind of an alternate start.
Done.
A lot of people just walked in while I'm focused over here, so let's look around as we grab this. Sure, we're not getting got. We do decently well in close ranged fights since we have a sword for 40. Obviously, we can't swing it quite as fast as like a shotgun character can fire, but it does decently well. I think we'll just go all the way to A. Pick up this green key card, even though we'll probably never need it. Honestly, it's a little bit of a risk for kind of no reason. I was really hoping I could catch that guard there, but it doesn't look like I'm able to. We could go around the other door, see if there's a guard, but I think we're just going to head back up towards B at this point. So all around, kind of a big circle. And we can figure out from there. Looks like there's 2 guards, so I'm going to put my running shoes on. A couple more. And we'll grab Doug here and duck into the bathroom. And hopefully no one saw that, and we can just grab this from 3. Oh, thought I stopped it too early for a split second. Alright, we looked really sus crossing there as I looked back and forth, but that's okay. Doesn't seem like there's anyone else in here. So we'll get this. Pretty sure if either of those 2 people were a player, we would have been shot at by now. So, one thing we're going to see kind of a lot of, well, I don't know about a lot, but pretty much every fight we're going to see me animation cancel the expertise here. So let's look at the full animation. He just drops that on and sets it down. And then I cancel it early here so that we don't, you know, have to, so that we'll get it back quickly. There we go. That's what I'm trying to say. So we're going to see that animation this time and hopefully no other times. I'm going to have to stick my nose out here. I guess we opened it so we can step all the way out. Alright, because we didn't quite get 8 intel when we were in there. Okay, she was looking a little weird. This is our expertise cooldown. It's not actually the most amazing chip because if you're remembering to cancel this ability, it does go on a fairly short cooldown, but it's better to have than not have. Jeez, these guys are freaking me out with their movements. Like, if we hadn't have been being incredibly suspicious ourselves, I would probably have taken a shot at someone by now. We're just going to bounce up here towards C. We didn't get our blue there, mostly because I didn't want to stay around there too long looking for intel. 3 bonds, that's worth 5 bonds. That's the premium currency of this game. You can just find 5 of them laying around as you're playing. There we go. Now up to 9 intel again with a purple key card. Grab the 1 here, and just to make sure we're not getting too much peek in the window as we go. That does sound like a blue key card. I mean, it sounds like a key card, and based on location, it's probably blue. So let's chill for a moment. I opened the wrong drawer by accident. There we go. Just make sure we're not being real suspicious until we're, you know, in the room a little more. Right.
No vault terminal here.
A bit unfortunate there's no vault terminal here. So we found both purple rooms. I'm fine with wasting 1 intel here. Grabbing a 3, but I can only hold 2. Just because if we probably won't be back to that room ever. So we'll grab 5 here. And we'll grab the 3 intel there, and we'll head out to yet another terminal. I think that means we know what every single other room is. There we go. Okay. So you see with poison, we can't pick this up. This is actually a good showing of what poison does, even though we are the ones who are poisoned this time. Let's hit this button. Yeah, we landed a nice headshot, and we're just a little better on our sword there. Trying to think if there's any real Sasori techniques things. One thing to do is I'm not sure. Oop, sounds like an Octo's fighting somebody somewhere. It could be a bait box. Because they all look loaded kind of odd. If I saw someone to like jump on, I would jump on down and onto them. Was that a signal scrambler? Maybe it was just a light reflecting weird. Okay, so now we know where every single other vault terminal is. It's because we've been to the 2 purples. So we just kind of have to run through and get them. And not die along the way.
You have successfully located a vault terminal.
Yeah, not a lot. So, the one thing that is kind of special about Sasori, well, besides the running and shooting thing, which I haven't got to show off yet, but to kind of practice, if I was going to recommend you practice something, it's how fast you can switch from dart to sorting. You can do it way faster than you expect. So, obviously, your dart has like a fire rate.
Nice.
But the fire rate doesn't affect the sword at all. So you can dart into sword way faster than you can dart into dart. And then the sword has its own cooldown that does affect the dart, so you can't like dart sword dart really fast, but you can. Okay, we're gonna bail on this fight. I'm gonna leave that there, and I'm gonna hit it a bunch, which is gonna annoy the Hans, but also potentially buy me getaway time. Okay, so we know that's set up with a lot of tripwires.
Standards are much lower.
Grab us a little more ammo now that we can hold it. Let's head over to A, because that one's not set up with a lot of tripwires, hopefully. And we're just might be the time we show off the retinal scanner. So we did see, I believe, a VIP somewhere in our travels. I'll have to remember where, because we will need that outfit. But let's get this one done. Oh, can't miss those. Oh boy. All right, I can't be missing these shots.
A vault terminal deactivated. Next time, try to do it yourself.
Oop. Oof, that was way closer than it should have been. I missed a lot of shots on that Cavalier. Yeah, we just get to sit here and heal on top of the body. Not the best spot to be healing, but at least we're not dead. There's a VIP. All right, it all worked out in our favor. Absolutely calculated. So we know that the last one's being camped by a Hans with a bunch of tripwires and stuff. So we get to grab a VIP disguise. You don't have to grab the VIP disguise first, but if they go missing on you, it's real annoying. So, yeah, like to grab the VIP disguise first. This comes with its own risk traveling around as the VIP. And we go to the retinal scanner here. Since there's only one terminal left, it's going to ask for 15 intel. And we have to get that. So put our initial 10 in. Can't get any more there. We need to find 5 more. Hopefully we find a bit more than 5. Since we need 5 to finish the terminal. And then we need even more than that to like do the vault afterwards. So we're gonna grab this little bit as well.
I'm not wasting time.
And you can see Doug's following us because we're VIP now. All right, make sure we're not blowing our cover. So you put in your other 5 and you put in the VIP retinal scan, and it does do a little alarm, but then the vault will open in 15 seconds. I don't really want to be a VIP anymore. But I don't see another option right this second. So this is what we got.
Vault open. Prove to us we have right to
good.
call you our
There's
favorite.
Doug and his twin brother Doug. So presumably we're fighting just a Hans, although someone did, oh yeah, our bounce pad was over there. So we're gonna make an interesting play. Since we know where the Hans was probably coming from, we're just gonna head that way. And we'll see if we spot anyone overly sus coming in at this entrance. There's a printer here. I do wonder if it was that person we just walked past. We'll see. They look like they're hacking. Let's post up here if I can. See if this printer starts. Well, I grab a bit more intel. I don't think so. Okay, let's start this printer since we do want a thing going. Alright.
A watched pot never boils.
walk away from it a bit so we're not being too obvious. Now that we got our printer going, we just need some intel for when we eventually get the package. Stick our head in some of these places.
Taking longer than sharpening my knives.
Alright, make sure no one's like chilling right here. And I am gonna make the run up. We could use a bounce pad and get there faster, but we didn't have an outfit quite yet, and this gave us a longer opportunity to get it. And I do want my bounce pad in case something goes really wrong. But it might be good to show off. We won't do it. There's various bounce pad paths you can make on this map, using some of the vents out there to get up to that floor early, or the really obvious one to just bounce pad on top of the bathroom where we printed to just get up a floor faster. So there's a couple interesting bounce pads you can do in this vault. Lights green means whoever was or may have entered the vault is not here yet, so that's good. Keep our eye on the two hallways we can see. And check. Okay, there is a player there. It is the Hans. And they are going down. Going downstairs. Got it. I think they might have fallen. If I had seen them fall, we could have chased a little harder because they would have taken some fall damage. They probably got some intel on what we're disguised as. Oh, they're gone. Okay, they probably took some damage then. You like only run that way, that far, that fast, and you took some fall damage. All right, we don't have to run right into them. It's a Hans. We don't want to make this a close range fight. We also came in that way, so that means there's probably more intel for us to get this way. Now against the Hans, we do kind of want to make this a ranged fight, even though we have the sword, which does pretty well at short range. All right, the Hans is coming over, so we have to decide if we're fighting this here or not. And I think it's yes, but no, because we can move this way and probably get shot. All right. Interestingly, that wasn't the end of the game. All right, so there is at least one more person. They are kind of far, though. We should change this, guys. Let's just grab this one. And make sure we ping again somewhere. There we go. I think they're AFK, or just mimicked as something. They look crouched, so they maybe mimicked as something and then had to go. Not sure. Bit of a disappointing end. Maybe they're moving now? Yeah, they're moving now. Okay. Good. They're not just AFK. That's always nice to see. All right. I always like to walk towards people like this, and then we'll get behind them. All right. And there we go. So at the end there, we really did see how fast you can actually throw a sword after a dart, which was pretty quick. Yeah, that squad was unfortunately just not prepared for us to be behind them, and just we landed like 3 darts before he even turned around. So pretty good showing. I missed a ton of shots on that cav, but we did land the swords, which was important. So pretty happy we didn't die there. That would have been a little bit embarrassing, but also you probably wouldn't have seen it, so it works out. Now let's move to what I'm calling the alternate build showcase here with our weapon too, which is bound to be fun because it's kind of sword heavy, so I'm excited, and I'll see you guys right there. All right, we got our gold outfit, gold ink on, diamond spire. We're very on theme here with our alternative build. Oh, is she going in? No. All right, let's grab this. Usually no one's going to notice right off spawn. Usually no one spawns close enough to you. So, oh, of course you missed that one. Didn't see the second guard heading. Why are you following me? One thing to shout out here is this is not necessarily my preferred build. If you're like jumping to this point of the guide, do want to shout that out for you. My preferred build is very similar to the initial build we saw earlier, so decided to go with this as a more alternative build than preferred. Let's grab all this intel. So
Might use that later.
there we go. I think we're just gonna break in here and look around and see if anyone else is player E. Not quite. All right. Here, a key card. There we go. Shining through the box a little bit there.
Doors. Much obliged.
And we will need a bunch of intel. 5 more. Okay, 1 more after this. Sticking our head in all of these drawers is making me nervous. If this guard walks all the way in, I'll be happy, but they seem to not be on that path, which is a little odd in itself, but a player also wouldn't just like walk through like that. They'd definitely stop for either the room or a safe or something, so I'm not that concerned. All right. I'm gonna play this, or at least try to play this, a little bit sword heavy.
Vault terminal location confirmed.
As I charge my kunais, but we're gonna see if we can land some sword focused combat, because the sword does a lot of damage, even though I think with this weapon it might even be better to use the kunais
You're getting closer.
more so, but the sword is really fun, and that's kind of what I'm trying to show off. Again, I keep charging the kunais because they're more valuable at range if someone happens to see us, but
Taking longer
that's
than
what it
sharpening
is.
my nails.
I think we'll do the diamond spire jump because it looks good on a guide. So obviously there's fall damage in this game. It does cap out at 60, but if you land on your bounce pad, you don't take any of it. Notably, all I did there was I hit the right click for the auto inflate. I didn't throw it. Actually, if you're doing that big diamond spire jump, that's a player, by the way, then
There's no vault terminal.
did they just run through?
Deactivated
Oh boy,
by someone else.
hang on. Oh boy, okay. Charge the kunai time. Don't get hansed around a corner. Okay, I need to land a kunais. Okay, we need to land a charge sword. Oh my gosh, we can't land a sword on this guy to save my life. I can't hit the sword. This is why this weapon is sometimes bad.
Learning
There we go.
the secret to good health. Upgrades.
Not that, you know, I was aiming particularly amazingly, but like the sword hitbox is real small. And we just missed like 3 of them in a stall, in a bathroom stall. So, bit embarrassing, but you know what? It's important to show off in a guide as well, because that does happen. And that's why this weapon is somewhat mid-ish, and investing in the sword like that isn't great. Because sometimes you miss, and that long cooldown is why we kept having to back away from the fight. And honestly, if that Hans had have given some chase, we would have just died.
Navigation mode. Destination set.
Even though they were, however low they were, I don't even think they were low, but we did kill them with 160 damage swipe, so they had less health than that. All right. And in we go.
Vault terminal
All right,
located.
and this is the last terminal, which is fine because we have everything. Yeah, bit of an awkward showing as somewhat of our first piece of combat there. I really wanted to land the sword on that Hans before he got in the bathroom stall. I thought that'd be really cool, but I guess I should have just thrown the kunais out. Well, it's great we did the last one. This vault terminal is almost too close to this vault because you get here a little bit early. And just standing here waiting is kind of sus. Alright, I thought they were coming. We can check out and see if anyone's running towards the other entrances, but I didn't see anyone. Alright, let's see what there is for printers. That was a fast-ish game. The only people we know died was that Hans and whoever that Hans took out in front of us there. So, could be a lot of people still left. Let's get this printer going. While there might be better printers, we did find this one, and that can be valuable. Just getting a printer that, you know, getting a printer going can be more valuable than looking for a deep one. We do have good key cards, so it might have been worth our time to try to find it. But yeah, this one has a lot of entrances. That's the thing. We're gonna waste 1 intel by getting this 4. But that should be okay. So yeah, they can come through 1, 2, 3 different directions. Although I think you can only hear it from this one direction. There's no one there. Got myself a key card. And we'll head on up. Yeah, I'm still just gonna be awkward, awkward and embarrassed by that showing. And now that we have the case, we still can definitely be kind of sword focused, but it's more likely we might have to focus more on the kunais, because getting up close with someone while we're pinging all the time is a little bit harder. Alright, what do we got? Two people, both over there, red and red. I think they were both red, just different outfits. Alright. Grab that. Keep us up close to our 10. Oh, did they take each other out, or did they just separate? They might have taken each other out. I'm gonna ping over here, and then we'll walk this way. We'll see if we can pull off some sword movement here. I don't think we're gonna be able to. Oof, alright. Well, we kunai'd, that's good. This chair is poisoned, that's interesting. We don't need this, we're healing pretty well, and... Oh, there is one other person over here. Not sure how we poisoned the chair there, but hey, we'll take it. I think it was just us sitting on the chair. It just looked kind of like we poisoned the chair. Okay, what do we got going on now? Oh, she's over there. Let's put our running shoes on and head out to a more populated area. All right. I think we're just going to employ the runaway strategy for a moment. We don't need to, but it'll be a little easier for us to deal with stuff outside the vault. Although we could turn around at this point, make sure no one's in front of us. All right, she's not giving chase that closely. We're going to switch off a guard disguise as soon as we see one kind of on our way, which I'm not. So we might just get one there, call this extraction from way down here. And we might duck downstairs to see if we can't get ourselves a costume. A costume? A disguise. Let's ping down here too. Oh, she is pretty far. I'm gonna go for the kill. I think if we just... No, I don't think we'd get it if we just did this.
Do not be careless.
Okay, they definitely know. And I definitely just missed that. Okay. We didn't get a full kunai charge there on the second one. We only shot like 2 or even 1. So that's why I knew I would have to throw it that melee, and we did, and it worked. So, I mean, nothing wrong with that.
Can't deny it. Victory.
There we go. We did a lot of sword focus. Really awkward on that Hans, but we led with the sword, which isn't necessarily amazing, but we got to use the poison bomb to somewhat animation cancel the long put away, so we could react a bit faster. So you can do things like that. Again, this weapon's kind of fun. Is fun, but I'm not sure if I was just trying to win games, we would take this one, just because if someone dodges your sword or you miss, you've invested a lot of time into something that did no damage. So all in all, Sasori is great. I love him. He's my favorite character. And I hope this guide helped you out. If it did, a subscription would be really nice, as that does help me make more guides and videos in general. If you have Sasori tips, feel free to put them in the comments, hopefully to help other people. Or we still have, I think, 5 more guides to make. So if anything would be useful for future guides that we may have missed, that could help us out as well. And we usually do gameplay commentary here, so if that's something you're into, I will see you in the next one.